All right, everybody. I'd like to introduce our next presenter here at the Planet MicroCap Showcase Vancouver, Andrea Aranguren. She's the CEO of MineHub Technologies. Andrea, take it away.
Thank you, and good job saying my last name. It's not an easy one. That time in Latin America helped you. It's very nice to meet you all. Thank you for spending some time with me. I'm really excited to tell you about MineHub and the problems we're solving and all the traction that we're getting. So thank you for being here. A little bit about myself. I've spent the last 15 years or so in physical commodities markets, mostly on the operations and logistics side. I spent some time at large companies like Goldman Sachs. I was the VP of logistics, also led business development for IHS Markit. I've also done a lot of work with startups, helping them with supply chain digitization and optimization. Back in 2019, I co-founded a company called Weybridge, which set out with a mission to digitize the physical commodities market, and coincidentally found ourselves competing more and more with a company called MineHub. And earlier this year, MineHub acquired Weybridge. I came on initially as president and COO and was recently appointed CEO of MineHub. Great, let's get into it. The world has digitized pretty much everything that we do. We see that in our personal lives. We see that across almost every single industry. Yet almost remarkably, the $11 trillion physical commodities market is still operating almost completely on spreadsheet and on paper. And of course, this is incredibly inefficient. This is leaving companies prone to human error as data is manually entered into a variety of different places. But it's also opening companies up to an incredible amount of risk. And we're seeing that more and more, particularly in the post-COVID era, that a failure to modernize is creating massive risk for the companies in the commodity supply chain, as well as the global economy as a whole. We see this with chronic raw material shortages, labor shortages, huge amount of supply chain disruptions, difficulties with transportation companies delivering freight, increasing regulation, and unfortunately, persistent fraud. There was just another huge scandal with a company called Arubis, another hundreds of millions of euros, 100 million euros in losses due to fraud, which could have been mitigated from digital tools. MineHub has emerged as the leading digital supply chain platform for this market. Our mission is to make the raw material supply chain more efficient, resilient, and sustainable. And our technology is helping companies to prepare for the future. Our technology provides very powerful solutions for incredibly high-value challenges, helping companies with supply chain resilience, helping them to abide with increasing ESG compliance and emissions accounting regulations, other trade regulations we're seeing globally, as well as sanctions, increasing focus on fraud prevention, as well as data security and other regulatory requirements. At MineHub, we've been following a very deliberate go-to-market strategy. So our technology is built, as we say, material agnostic. So we could manage any raw material, whether it's soybeans or coffee or metals. But we have very deliberately focused on mining and metals, which is the markets where we've seen the most traction and where we see the most opportunity. Moreover, we have been very, very deliberate to focus on signing the leading companies in those markets, the market leaders, because we believe that those companies are the companies that will help us to drive adoption of our technology. And as we sign a new company, huge companies like Codelco and Sumitomo, which we've recently announced, we onboard their entire ecosystem. All of their partners, all of their suppliers, traders, customers get a free account on the platform. They're introduced to the value of the technology, the team, they sign our terms of use, and then they essentially feed our sales pipeline. Those are the companies we then go after to target, to convert, to be paying customers. And because these customers are massive, customers like BHP with very complex global networks, we actually have an opportunity to expand even within each customer account as we add more materials and more regions to the material that we manage for them. This sales playbook has been working incredibly effectively. We have seen a huge increase in the number of customers connected to our ecosystem from 20 companies in 2021 and we're on track to exceed 150 companies connected to the platform by the end of this year. And what's more important is the logos that you see here. It's the caliber and the size of the companies like BHP, Codelco, the largest mining company in the world, the largest producer of copper in the world, Sumitomo, arguably the largest mover of copper in the world, some of the largest manufacturers, all connected to our platform. And what we find is that there is an incredible virality to our sales strategy and our implementation approach. Every new customer represents a hub in our network. And as we onboard them, as we implement the platform for their business, we connect to every single one of their partners in their supply chain: logistics providers, fabricators, producers, miners, traders, everybody. And while we use data from certain logistics providers, our partners that will feed data for us, it's the counterparties that really drive sales for us. And so as we sign a new customer, we onboard their counterparties, we target those counterparties to then become their own hub. So a great example of this is actually one of our first customers, which is a company called Southwire. They're one of the largest manufacturers of copper in the world, operations based in North America. When we onboarded them, one of their suppliers was, not surprisingly, Codelco, the largest producer of copper in the world. They got a free account. They were familiar with the platform, and that allowed us to convert Codelco to now be their own hub, their own paying customer. We recently announced a press release, a 3-year deal with Codelco, which is an incredible opportunity for us, and we'll be managing 100% of their global sales via the platform. There's a huge value to both the buy and the sell side of the market for digitization. So without tools like the MineHub platform, buyers they have very poor visibility into their incoming material flows. They don't have adequate tools to manage their inventory. And so what they do is they end up overbuying material. As supply disruptions occur, they have to often go into the spot market, pay higher premiums for material, all with the goal of avoiding plant shutdowns. And so with our digital tools, they have that visibility. They have the ability to actually run much leaner inventories, to have much better visibility into their incoming material flows, to avoid plant shutdowns, all of this leading to a 15% potential increase in EBITDA margins for buyers by utilizing our platform. On the sell side, interestingly, also a huge amount of value, but a slightly different perspective. Sellers don't really have a great way to communicate with their customers. They get a lot of feedback about inadequate customer experience. And so by being able to create a digital platform that improves this customer experience, that actually better positions them from a premium perspective, expands share of wallet, helps them to get paid sooner, and also leading to a 10% potential increase in share of wallet. Very, very quickly about the tool. It is a SaaS platform, AWS cloud hosted. It's what we call post-trade management. So this isn't a marketplace. Basically, buyers and sellers, they know each other, right? They go to conferences, they do business together. They've been doing business for many, many years often. So the problem actually isn't in introduction and in buying. It's about the management of the actual delivery of these massive shipments that are coming, from Asia onto a ship, into a warehouse, onto a truck, into a rail car, to a manufacturing facility. And so what we do is we really solve the main pain in the market, which is the trade management aspect of that. So customers will negotiate their orders, they'll upload those to the platform, we'll connect to their ecosystem, streamline, automate all of the data so buyers and sellers can seamlessly manage those deliveries and track order status, but most importantly, also giving them predictive tools and reporting so that they can actually optimize their business, mitigate risk, and prevent fraud. Very briefly, we provide seamless order collaboration and visibility. So whether material is on a truck or rail, a container, or in a break bulk vessel, we provide real-time ETAs, centralize all of the documents, connect it with the shipments. These are, we have one customer that for one order from one supplier at one plant, there's 500 truck shipments a day. So you can imagine managing massive amount of data from disparate sources is almost impossible without digital tools. We're seeing that because we have all of the order data, because we see exactly where shipments come from, we have provenance information, we have all the supplier information, we track the route of every shipment, that's unlocked an incredible opportunity for us to provide very, very comprehensive ESG and emissions reporting. So we help customers to track their Scope 3 inventory, whether it's production inventory or transportation emissions. We also help customers to prove compliance with different regulations because we have all of that data, and ultimately helping customers to track their performance against their ESG criteria and metrics. We've created a very comprehensive tool called the Assay Exchange, which solves a very particular problem within the concentrates market, but very similar premise of digitizing the data, connecting to key partners, allowing customers to drive operational efficiencies, but more importantly, digitizing the data and providing a comprehensive way to actually analyze and provide optimal strategies around that data. MineHub has emerged as the market leader in what is really a massive greenfield opportunity. One of the questions, probably one of the most common questions I get is, who's your biggest competitor? And our biggest competitor is still Microsoft Outlook and Excel. There really isn't any other player out there, certainly not providing as comprehensive of a solution or with nearly as much traction as we have had, particularly in key markets. We are benefiting from massive tailwinds, not just from new regulations, but from a lot of the forces we talked about earlier in the presentation, increasing need for digitization to mitigate risk in a variety of different ways. And there's significant barriers to entry, significant domain market expertise required. One of the feedbacks I'm really proud of, whenever we do a demo with customers, usually the first thing they say is, wow, you guys really understand my business. And I think that's a key differentiator, that we're really solving problems tailor-made for the industry with that domain expertise. And we have a significant first mover advantage. We've spent the last 2-3 years signing some of the biggest customers in the world. That was a significant effort for sure. But now we're incredibly well positioned with very, very solid partnerships, with a very, very sticky platform, with a growing and expanding network base. In order to expand, it would be very difficult for somebody to come in and take market share from us. So how big is that opportunity? We see the addressable market at about $7.5 billion. And we break that into two compartments. So the platform we briefly went over is what we call the supply chain management platform, which is operational today. We charge SaaS fees, volumetric, on average 50 cents per metric ton managed via the platform. And so looking at the total opportunity to deploy our platform within the physical commodities market, that alone is a $1.5 billion opportunity. But what's more important is that that platform creates an incredible foundation for us to overlay additional services and features on top of that. So that same visibility that's so critical for buyers and sellers is very critical for banks as well, who are financing those transactions. So we're in discussions to expand and leverage the platform by expanding the customer base to banks and actually offering them risk mitigation and visibility, helping them to facilitate how they finance these commodities transactions. That's an incredible $5 billion opportunity. And then we see there's a huge opportunity to expand within sustainability, as well as logistics. There are many, many companies that focus on moving all of this freight that could also certainly benefit from the tool and the technology that we've built. We are small but mighty. We're about 30 people, but globally spread out. We have employees in Asia, UK, Europe, as well as in North America, which is in fact where our customers are. We have customers pretty much everywhere in the globe, and we have shipments moving from pretty much every location, A to B, throughout the world. So certainly a global footprint in all of the key markets and jurisdictions. Our executive team really highlights that unique combination that I mentioned of domain expertise, but also technology expertise. So very well, we benefit from that unique combination of commodities background as well as technology background, very experienced executive team. So why MineHub? We are at an incredibly exciting inflection point, especially through the acquisition of Waybridge. We've seen a massive amount of increase in our commercial momentum. We're starting to see solid revenue growth from an ARR perspective, and we expect that to continue. We put out a press release targeting $2 million in ARR by the end of this year. We certainly expect to exceed that, and we are on a very strong path to break even. So we are, will be near-term cash flow positive, industry leader, really no competition, very high barriers to entry. And then lastly, on the capital structure, you'll notice that management and advisors have about 30% of the ownership, so very, very closely aligned with shareholders in our mission. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. Yes. Sorry, couldn't hear your first question. If I can comment on the struggle with the EPA, no, we really don't. We are a neutral technology platform, so we do want to ensure, that data flows seamlessly, but we really try to stay out of any sort of regulatory issues or disputes with the EPA, certainly. Sure. Great question. I'll repeat it for the people watching virtually. The question was about an update on the Codelco implementation, how's it going, general timelines, and when we expect customers to start receiving benefit. So I actually had 3 calls with Codelco customers this morning, starting at 5:30 a.m. So I will say the implementation is in full force. We are spending the first 2 weeks of September onboarding, reaching out, onboarding their initial customer set, which are their 10 largest companies that represent more than 50% of the global volume for refined copper sales. So far, the feedback has been incredibly positive. We expect to have all 10 of those customers onboarded, live, trained between September and October for an official go-live date of November 1st. In terms of when customers can start to receive value, as soon as they're live on the platform. For customers, it's really an incredible kind of self-service tool that they can come in and see much more data on a much more timely basis without having to actually reach out to the Codelco team and ask for information. They can just log in and see that themselves. So value is delivered immediately. Another great question about trade finance, where we are in the development of that, where we see in terms of scale to actually get meaningful revenues. On the trade finance side, we are in meaningful discussions with a variety of different financing institutions. The way we see that is that's not going to be, something we launch with one partner, but we'd like to get a larger group of financing partners that provide input and feedback to ensure that the platform that we build really addresses the market needs rather than sort of one company's needs. So we're really in that sort of discovery partnership process. Super encouraged that our product team estimates that more than 70% of the core functionality that's built already meets the needs of the banks and what they are really looking for to actually transform the way they do business. We've tested out different pricing models. We don't see a significant barrier where you need to reach critical mass to start seeing revenue, right? The model will likely be taking a percentage of the financing activity because copper happens to be very valuable. These transactions are worth millions and millions of dollars, so even taking 5 to 10 bips on that would already actually lead to significant revenue growth. We get that question a lot. Does MineHub anticipate any acquisitions in the near future? It has definitely come up, but we just feel like we're just getting started. We have a lot to do. We feel like we're at a really exciting inflection point. We have a huge amount of commercial traction. Codelco, Sumitomo, BHP will hopefully have a couple more customer announcements coming in the near future. We're definitely just getting started. You had a question? We're familiar with tech. They have a platform. They have a login on the platform, but they're not a paying customer today. Yeah, but we've been in ongoing discussions with them, yes. Yeah. We prefer to go with the low-hanging fruit. No, I'm just kidding. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time.